Welcome to the Tansson Talks show. I'm Brandon, the host of the show, and I always love doing this. Now, on our 125th episode, I'm very excited to welcome my guest here today, Zachary Valancourt. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Brandon. It's nice to be back.
Yeah, I always love having you back. And so, first of all, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a little hot, since I think it's like 95 degrees out on July 27th, but pretty good since I'm indoors today. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad that you're indoors and hopefully making the most of summer 2025.
Yep, it's been good so far.
Well, that's amazing to hear, and I know as a friend of the podcast, this is now your fifth total appearance across my shows. So, how does it feel?
It feels good. It's kind of cool checking back and seeing how things have changed from each podcast. So I'm curious to see what we'll talk about this time at this new update.
Well, yeah, I'm certainly excited, like I said, to have this update and catch up time with you. And so, if you're able to go ahead and, per usual, go ahead and introduce yourself once again for the watching and listening audience before we go ahead and get started.
All right, so hello everyone. I'm Zachary Valancourt. I'm currently a rising senior at Virginia Tech doing aerospace engineering. I've got a minor in astronomy and physics. I hope to minor in math, and I'm doing an internship this summer. And some hobbies of mine are just playing tennis, playing the trumpet, and stargazing.
Well, overall, like I said, I'm so excited, like I said, to dive into everything. And so, overall, like, how has it been since we have, like I said, spoken on the podcast this time last year? I mean, how overall has your year been with your studies?
It's been fantastic. It was tough at first in aerospace because it's so much harder. So I was really trying to find a balance between everything. And because usually when it comes to extracurriculars and classes, I like to do as much as I can. But historically, I've bitten off a little more than I can chew sometimes. But this year, I've really been able to refine what I'd like to do since it's very tough to decide that in college. So my classes went a lot better academically. I had a lot more interesting classes between classes required for my minor and some electives I wanted to take. And I've got a good idea of what extracurriculars I'm focusing on, like chipping in at the astronomy club, and I'm currently a team lead for an undergrad research team, which I think I mentioned last time. That was true as well, but it's still true. So that's mainly what I've been doing, just focusing on my classes, doing better than previous years, and narrowing down my extracurriculars list to focus on what I like doing.
Well, I'm glad that overall that you're able to sort of focus in on what you are interested in and then what you want to pursue, and then following that path forward. And so, I know that you mentioned in your introduction that that even for your interests that you like narrowed down and specialized in them from of course your aerospace engineering, and then your in the combination of your minors from your current ones to your aspiring ones from astronomy, physics, and math. I mean, how do you have time for all that?
That's an awfully good question. But it's just, I'd really like to look into it. I know for astronomy, I'd mentioned in the past because the classes intersected really well. And then at one point, after talking with my advisor on some class content, I realized that it was very easy to get a physics minor as well. It was, I think, one or two extra classes. So I took a class called Modern Physics, which is, uh, I think, 1780s onward, if I remember correctly. So it was very interesting to see those recent topics, but I took that to get my physics minor. And then for math, I'm working towards it. I'll work towards it next semester because, again, it was only a couple extra classes. So how I had time for it, I just kind of fit it into my schedule. It was surprisingly easy schedule-wise, but effort-wise, it was very cool to focus on a different topic that I like while still being related to aerospace, just in terms of the math required and the related subject matter.
Well, I'm glad that that was all able to work out with that. And I do remember, like I said, last year when we were having that conversation, you were looking into it. So I'm so glad that you were able to, to find it, pursue it, and yeah, and you're really almost there in terms of your college journey.
Exactly. It's crazy to think that I'll be a senior. I've heard heard many different things about senior design from my uh, some of my friends who have taken it, but I'm excited for it. So yeah, it's just a couple electives at this point. It's interesting for me having the opposite problem where instead of trying to fit all my courses in a decent schedule, I'm trying to find courses to put in general. So on paper, it's less study hours, but It's still going to be tough with senior design, but I'm looking forward to that whole final year of college experience.
Yeah, I mean, and even thinking about this in almost like a time capsule, I mean, when we first spoke, you were just in your second semester of of college, and then we've checked in summer after summer since then, and so now you're entering that senior year. I mean, I know that you said you don't know really what to expect, but how does it feel knowing that across this journey that you've just continued progressing, refining your interests, and overall figuring out like what makes you you?
It's really fulfilling because it's just a lot to think about. Since when you say you're researching something holistically, holistically by definition implies every aspect of yourself. So it's kind of tough to check in on all aspects of yourself if you don't actively think about it. But these podcasts have been a way to work towards that too. Because again, like you said, it's a time capsule to look back on. So you can remind yourself of what you were like back then. You can compare it. So I think it's very valuable overall, just seeing where I've been in all sorts of different aspects. Extracurriculars, college, jobs. It's very fulfilling. Is what I guess I'd say.
Well, I'm so glad. I mean, that it is fulfilling, and and circling back. So I know over the course of of this time that you've also been trying to figure out like what do you like doing. Let's say outside of just your studies, because I know that you're very studious and always like going the extra mile in researching. But have you been able to continue making time for yourself?
Uh, I would say yes, definitely. The one of the reasons why I like to focus on many different aspects of college is because most of what I'm studying is also what I like doing. So it's good multitasking. But afterwards, I've definitely found a lot of time for myself too. Because even though I've definitely refined what aspects of my hobbies of life I like, so far the hobbies themselves haven't really changed. Like I haven't found too many new interests, not because I'm not interested, but I've just hobby wise been pretty committed to what I've been doing for a very long time in my life. So now it's just refining what nuance of those hobbies, like, getting more involved in stargazing. I've one thing we can talk about if you want. I've been looking a bit into more astrophotography because obviously it's not budget friendly, let alone a college student. And then some other hobbies like playing the trumpet and tennis, just planning how to get back into that once college is over. But overall, I've definitely made time for myself because in a major like this, you kind of have to take some time to self care. Otherwise, you'll just burn out.
Oh, absolutely. And I know, across our conversations, I know that in the last two that you'd spoken about was that taking that time for yourself. And I'm glad that you're able to, to follow through with it and and make sure that you have time for those hobbies. And of course, throughout all of our conversations, you've spoken about your interest in stargazing. I'm glad that you're now going, looking into the astrophotography space. I definitely am excited to ask about that in just a little bit. But you've spoken about, of course, your time with trumpet, but I don't think that we've actually discussed your interest in tennis before.
Actually, yeah, now that I think about it, we haven't touched on it too much. The reason I guess I'll talk a bit about it then, since I haven't done too much in college. But one thing that was really cool, like at least when I was a kid, we do some summer tennis camps. I forgot what kickstarted the interest. I think it was, yeah, we had a tennis court at the school I live really close to, Grafton Bethel. So they had a tennis court where you could use as a playground, but you could also just play tennis. So I think it started as like little kids would just kind of hang out, not like actually play tennis, but just kind of whack the ball around and just do that with our parents. So that was fun. Then in like elementary school, middle school, we'd go to tennis camps. I forget what the park is. I want to say it's Bat Creek. I don't know if that's right, but over there, they have a ton of courts. So it'd be like 5 hours, which back then was a long time. We'd spend all day in the heat just playing tennis, getting better at strokes and serves and stuff. You'd play fun games like Jail, King of the Court, stuff like that. So that's how I got started in middle school. Then high school, I just kind of actually got on the tennis team. I wasn't very good at the time, both in general and because our lineup at the time was very good. So that was awesome. But I had a great time and a lot of friends one of which I still keep in contact with today. And then, yeah, so that's where I'm at. And then for college, I think I played once or twice, but I intentionally focused on engineering extracurriculars and like astronomy. instead of tennis, because that's a whole other level of maintenance in terms of like, staying in shape, going to events time wise. So time wise, I didn't want to make that commitment, but obviously tennis is, as I just mentioned, it kind of stuck with me through the years, and I hope to pursue it more after college once I kind of get an idea of what my life's going to look like.
Well, I'm certainly less excited to sort of hear that progression, yeah, as you continue on. And since you mentioned that you kind of wanted to make it, yeah, a part of your life after, yeah, you graduate and finish college. So, for you, how would you want that to, yeah, to look like? Is this just something that you'd want to do like in your free time, or do you want to make it more of an active part of your life, or like how would you see tennis in your life going forward after college?
I would think it's more of something to do in my free time as a hobby, because I don't know if I've ever. I could explore it, and maybe my answer will change, but I've never really explored it competitively too much. Because even though obviously I was on the tennis team, I just kind of wanted to get better at tennis in general, not so much to be the best of the best and beat everyone. So I don't see it leaning towards a competitive side, but mainly just as a fun hobby to pursue. I don't know how I'd go about it other than, getting in shape and practicing. Like I don't know who I would practice with, for example. But yeah, once I figure out what my job schedule and activities look like, I can just plan out from there. That's that's my tentative plan so far.
Well, that makes, like I said, perfect sense, right, right there. But yeah, I mean, I always enjoy being able to, let's say, to catch up with you, see how everything's progressing. But I definitely know that, yeah, as we've mentioned before, that your interest in, yeah, in astronomy and stargazing has been something that has been a big consistent throughout your life and our conversations. And so, over this past year, yeah, I know that you said you're looking into astrophotography. Like, how was that interest like? Uh, I guess really progressed over the course of this year and then your college journey overall.
Yeah, so at least for observing in a telescope for stargazing, you can't ignore astrophotography for too long when you start out. They're kind of two sides of the same coin. Some people go directly for astrophotography and lead towards the photo part, and some just learn focus more on visual and learning a telescope first, then try to go into astrophotography. So I've always had it in mind, and I initially didn't plan on pursuing it, but I knew I'd eventually want to dip into it at some point. Like in the past, in some of the images I've sent to people, I've usually just used my cell phone, so it technically is astrophotography because you're taking a photo through a telescope, but it's not anything crazy. But obviously, I've seen a zillion gorgeous pictures. People spend hours of time exposing it, taking a picture of it, and editing it. So I've always had that in mind. So how I progressed to astrophotography was that, I got my telescopes. So I got one for junior year, the big orange one I've showed you that I've been using forever. I got a different one. I've been slowly working my way up to it just as something to grab and go and look through. But I did consider eventually, I think one time I impulse bought a relatively cheap mount that's oriented towards astrophotography just as a I saw it was I think it was like 50% off on clearance on a Black Friday. It was like something insane. But I was like, okay, I might as well have this. So I had that sitting around, but then I didn't have a camera. So over the years in college, I've bought camera and what's a guide scope, kind of like a reticle on a rifle, for example, but for a telescope too to know what you're aiming at. You just put a camera on there, so your computer can cross-reference what you're looking at is actually there. So I got that camera and then an actual astrophotography camera this past school year. So I have been on paper I have all the parts I need. So even though I haven't had as much time as I thought because I was busy with this internship and like I was telling you, I've always had something come up every weekend uh, this summer that's taken some time away from that. I have everything I need. I tested out the equipment, so I just have to make sure I understand how it works. Find one more piece of software that I haven't had luck with, just a mount tracking software, and then I hope to take pictures from there. So that's kind of the progression, going from knowing it exists to getting a little more interest in it, and then now having all the equipment for it, but just need to make time, put some final touches to actually pursue it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that you're able to, I mean, to continue and now officially having that, the astrophotography camera. You have all of the pieces for the puzzle, and so are you ready to finally like put all those pieces together and like build that puzzle?
I think so, yeah. One thing I touched on, or I can elaborate on now, is that mount tracking software. So, like I said, you have that guide camera that cross references that what you're seeing through the eyepiece or camera is what's actually there. So I got that. I got a scope to put that guide camera on. That wasn't too hard. A friend of mine who lightly used it, he just sold it to me as a bundle, so that was nice. I got the camera, again, sold from a friend, super cheap. And then there was the mount with its own software. So the mount, it I haven't had much luck operating it because it's not as well used as most other brands of mounts. So I've had the mount software work and have connected with it, but I haven't been able to figure out how to actually slew or move the telescope with it. So that's why it's just technically just me being unfamiliar with it. But I wonder if I'd have a better experience with a more expensive mount that obviously I can't buy right now. So I'm just trying to troubleshoot how to go about that. So one thing I did a dry run. So I hooked everything up, just turned everything on, saw what I needed, just to kind of see if like it actually worked everything I had. Because one of them, the manufacturer recently went out of business. That's a whole big thing. Two notable um, manufacturers went out of business as part of some market collaborating stuff. It's a whole big thing that, again, just two notable brands are just gone. So at first I was like, I hope this works, and if not, what's the software for it going to be like? So I was turning everything on. The main camera worked fine with the software that I had to install for it. So I was like, yes, I can actually, it's actually connected. I can see something. Then for the guide camera from that, you know, manufacturer who went out of business, I forgot to download the software. No big deal. I just used the Wayback Machine uh, when they were still in business. Downloaded it, so I got it connected. I was like, yes, both the cameras are on this photography capture software I was using. And then for the mount, I tried experimenting with it and hadn't had any luck too much. Again, just connected it but couldn't actually move or slew it. So same thing. It's like, yes, it's actually connected. So I have the two pieces together, but now how do I make the mount move, let alone actually refine how to properly align it? Because I've read up on it, but it's a lot more complicated than the mounts I'm used to. So I have everything assembled and it works, but it's just getting the mount to work and communicating with everything else. That's like the last step. I could try to figure out how this mount works, or I could download a third party software and just have it connect to the mount. So it's that last piece that I need to just actually have the full setup working. And then obviously I'd have to explore the nuance of the actual photography itself.
Well, it certainly sounds like, I mean, that you've done your research, that you've been, doing some trial and error, trying to get everything to work, and hopefully, everything will continue working. No more the necessary companies go out of business.
Yeah.
I mean, small things like that.
Yeah, I hope so too. Because, yeah, I've done a ton of research. I like browsing a lot of stuff. So, one quick aside I'll say is that a lot of people tend to like to buy their way out of problems. So, like I said earlier, I know there are plenty of mounts with hand controllers. It's kind of unusual that this one doesn't, in my opinion. But a lot of mounts, they just kind of have their own software that you can use. So, one solution I had in mind, I could buy that more expensive mount I had with a hand controller and see if I could just use its native software to slew, then connect to everything else like I already did. But the only you don't have the money for that, I don't know if it would be the most productive effort to actually learn how to operate it. So, yeah, it's a lot of thinking about how to go about that process that is the important part.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely makes perfect sense. I know that like from the video like production side of me, like there's some things it's like, I really should just own this. Like it's like
Yeah.
I use this for I use this for work, I use this for other jobs, like, and I recommend this, but it's like, I should just own it. Like get it done.
Yep, exactly. I can't imagine. I'm sure you have a lot of experiences to say, but yeah, just troubleshooting camera mishaps, software, technical parts to make the feed look the way you want it to. I'm sure there's a lot of nuance in that you've researched and explored to get the quality you like. So we can kind of relate to that. It's just the same idea. How do you get the end result you want, and you have to learn what results you can manipulate.
Absolutely, and it's always tried to. It's always fun to try to do all this stuff, especially at a college student or recent graduate allowance, if you will, of money.
Yep, exactly. It's tight, and I know I have some stuff in mind I'll upgrade to kind of when I graduate. So I mentioned earlier I'm not going to buy my way out of my problems, but for my not so astrophotography setup, since I have two telescopes, one I've been using visually with just the cell phone astrophotography, and this one so far, interest wise, it's kind of looking the other way where it'll hopefully be mainly used for serious astrophotography. But I also have a not electronic, just like easy up down left right mount that I can just like attach it to it and just take it out in like 5 minutes, because that was the original intent, just taking it out. But then as astrophotography came to mind, I was like, let me impulse buy this very cheap mount and see what I can do. So I'll buy some more stuff to upgrade my visual setup, but yeah, not astrophotography quite yet.
Well, even though you're not, like I said, quite there, although almost there, yeah, the pieces where I will say over the years, yeah, as you've done various amounts of stargazing and looking at yeah various planets, that I know that you've been sending me all the pictures, and all your pictures like have always been like amazing and superb, and so like I'm in awe of what you're able to do thus far with like amateur equipment, let alone now with the professional equipment.
Right? Yeah, that's one thing that's kind of been keeping me thinking in the back of my head, because I don't know, if, admittedly, if I want to do hour long, like crazy awesome exposures. But yeah, if I've been able to do that some with just my basic cell phone, imagine what I can do with that equipment. One other thing that I'll mention too, before I forget to mention it, one of the classes I took, the class I actually took to finish my astronomy minor, it's called Observational Astrophysics. So even though it sounds cool, it's basically just stargazing as a class. So we got to use the observatory telescope, which was very recently renovated. So it's a 20-inch large telescope compared to like my 4-inch. So it's absolutely massive, but we learned the software and took some images with it. So not only do I have that to share, which I'll have to do at some point, but in theory, the professor who I've known a bit just through astronomy club stuff, since um, he's the faculty sponsor for that. I've got to know him a little better through that class, and for everyone in that class, he mentioned like, hey, if you want to use the observatory, just let me know. I'll let you have the keys again, because obviously wouldn't let us keep it after the class. So in theory, like at college, if I could make time, even though I could upgrade this too, I'd get admittedly a lot better results with the observatory if I use it. So one of these days, I've considered revisiting a project from that class and making time to take like hours long exposures. So that's something else I mentioned too. But yeah, it'll definitely be very interesting to see how my astrophotography endeavors go.
Well, yeah, well, definitely, as always, keep me updated. I'm so excited, like I said, to support your journey and be in awe of your, like I said, amazing work.
Awesome, thank you. I look forward to sharing it.
Yeah, and before, like, I switch gears a little bit to sort of the the fun part, I suppose, of yeah, of senior year, and asking a little bit about that. I did want to ask, since you're mentioning the astronomy club. I know that you've gone on and off as to whether you're part of it or not. So, what is the current status for you in the astronomy club?
So I'm not an officer at this point because again, kind of shifting priorities to focus on
Of
the
course.
rest of the stuff and senior year. Because one trope I think I've mentioned in these podcasts is that I've been slowly narrowing down how many extracurriculars I'm doing, both the focus on school and converge on what I'd like to do. So in the past, I was an officer. There's a bunch of stuff that went on, so I'm not at the moment, but I'm still in close touch. Like there's a grad advisor who's a friend of mine who's also super involved throughout the years. Then I'm just kind of, I guess, an advisor since I've been with the club. I'm not the oldest member, but I'm one of the people who's been with the club the longest. So I think I've just had a lot of advice to give the new officers right now. But as for the club as a whole, it's still pretty slow, but there are a lot of really good folks. I met all the officers; they're all super nice and dedicated. Um, they were all hoping to get the club back and running, so it was not officially a club at one point because the former president, who wasn't me, they I think they didn't follow up with the training, so they didn't have that. So we had to wait. to reapply for official club status in like March. And then events wise, it's been on and off between everyone being busy. A lot of them are juniors and seniors, and almost all of them are in engineering. Uh, so it's been kind of slow, but it's definitely back. So I look forward to seeing what they'll do next year and helping them out as needed.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to, I mean, to continue advising, even not in a like official officer role, but still having some sort of involvement, while also, of course, keeping your narrow focus on what you want to do and your accomplishments, uh, and making sure that you are focused on where you're trying to go, as opposed to uh, yeah, to just being stuck and having to spread yourself thin across numerous extracurriculars that you don't fully have the time for.
Right, exactly. This is honestly kind of perfect because even though it would be cool being an official role as well, just to super dissect stuff, it's it's good and bad not having that responsibility because I don't want to say like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to do the work, but it's kind of nice knowing that it's chill, so I can still do what I like to do, but not necessarily the workload that comes with it.
Oh, I 100% understand that. It's like, yeah, being able to be a leader in your own right, but not having the position per se to back it. Just being like, here's some advice if anyone wants them, but no pressure.
Yeah, I think in the adult world they call it what do they call it? Not counseling. We talked about it earlier. It's just consultant. Yeah, that's in the grown-up world. That's called consulting.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, I definitely hope that, like I said, that you enjoy your, let's say, consulting, and will continue to consult in the best way that you can going forward.
absolutely. I'm super excited to see what the club does now that we're on yet another clean slate.
Yeah, and now, yeah, speaking of that more, adult grown up world, so I know there's two big things that we have to discuss. That is, first of all, asking, like I said, how the job market is for you, going through applying for jobs, internships, everything in between, and then I believe just last year you finally went from campus life to your own apartment. So I definitely want to hear about both of those and how all of that's been for you.
Absolutely, yeah. I was thinking going into this, I was like, I know I mentioned the apartment at some point, and that's definitely a lot to talk about. But yeah, I guess I'll start with the job hunt a bit just to start kicking things off. So it's been pretty good so far, thankfully. It's been absolutely brutal for engineers in general. So it's tough for most, but I'm still at the shipyard interning this summer in a different department. It's pretty tied closely to my old department. My supervisor for this year, actually, I knew him a bit from last year. He wasn't directly related to what I was doing, but he was close by. He was on the same floor. He saw what we were doing. So apparently, he picked me out from the intern pool, knowing that I had done work previously. So that was pretty cool. So right now, it's a different aspect of it. It's I didn't have an intern project this summer. I just kind of actually am doing work for them, just various parts as needed, which I kind of like because it's the real deal. Just select parts. So I've liked that a lot. I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast last year, if it was before that, but I did get an offer from the department I was in last year. So I do have a job offer, which is obviously very relieving. So there's that. There's the shipyard's been pretty busy because they had furloughs this past summer. So it was kind of unprecedented. They furloughed I think 481 people because the new president, the old one when I was there last year, they resigned. There's a bunch of technical problems they're running into that couldn't quite be resolved, so they brought her in. So that effort, that those furloughs were part of the effort to streamline the shipyard. But they also released I forget the exact term, but it's like when you just raise everyone's wages to better match the market because some people a problem that happened was that they liked the work they were doing in the shipyard, but they found a position elsewhere just because the pay was lower than the market. So I raised that. But apparently, from what I've heard, it applies to my offer too. So I have to get in touch about that because again, my offer is like a year old, but on paper I accepted it. I just need to provide my proof of graduation and they'll give me a start date. But apparently that market raise applies to the wage I was given too. So there's some details I need to figure out, but yeah, I have an offer and I have an internship I like this summer. So job wise, I'm happy to say I think I'm in a good spot.
Well, I'm excited about about that. Obviously, not the furloughs, but I'm glad that you at least have a job
Yeah,
offer that is there and pending and waiting for your signature and graduation date.
I know. I'm so excited. And yeah, the furloughs were, yeah, they were pretty surreal. Like there was an intern chat they made, which I think is new for this year. They had a group me, but it was very interesting seeing interns' reactions for those furloughs. I remember that day I had some IT stuff I was doing. I think I was installing a software, and then I was like, "How's your day going?" And they said it's kind of tough because you would they saw some people getting dragged out of the building for the furloughs because it's tough. You're it was obviously it's spontaneous by definition. So yeah, they just dragged them out and they were just done until further notice. So that was tough. The interns were they weren't shocked. It was just kind of they were just like this is really noteworthy. So it was interesting seeing them react. The funniest thing was they sent a meme where it's like the traumatized veteran just staring directly at the camera because that's like how the interns feel. It's like I hope we're not next. And I was joking, yeah, I hope they don't furlough the interns. But yeah, it's very good, but not the furloughs though.
Well, I certainly hope, Lisa, that you have a long future in being able to, do the work that you love, and especially with that job offer in place. Like I said, that you at least have something that you can look forward to. And I know that you've been trying to sort of diversify like your internship experiences, and like how was that process even trying to, like apply to various places and all of that? Because I know the job market itself, just no matter where you are, is so interesting right now.
It's tough. Yeah, I'd love to talk about that because there's so much into it. So I've diversified within the shipyard, and that's one of its benefits. You'll always be employed within the shipyard in some department. But outside, it's been interesting too. I don't know if I mentioned it on last year's podcast, but at one point I was sad. There was one startup I got an intern offer from, but it was tough logistically because it was in somewhere remote in Tennessee, but they couldn't find much on housing or stipends, so couldn't quite get it to work out. But I was kind of sad because I did all the networking, reached out to them. I applied to their engineering positions. They ended up giving me a project management internship, which I don't. That was another awkward part because I think it's because I mentioned the project type work I did for the shipyard a couple summers ago. The Microsoft project document organizing stuff. So again, I guess technically project management. So there was a lot of variables that I was sad I couldn't fulfill, but I did apply to that. Elsewhere though, for the big companies, it's tough just because there's so many people, and just the application process. I don't know if it's because they can't filter enough applications or what, but one big problem that I don't know if you've seen personally too. A lot of people just get ghosted on applications, and the shipyard's been guilty of this too. I've been very lucky to hear back in a timely manner. So you'll just like not hear anything back. There was one time I was sad for ULA, United Launch Alliance. Uh, I really liked them. I knew a mentor who worked there, so I applied. I got a call saying like, uh, "Hey, see if we can do a screening call," which is a good step. It's like not an interview, but getting in that direction. But I just never heard back. And two folks I recommend to the shipyard for internships. One is a team member. He's got a good GPA. His extracurriculars are ridiculous, but he just never heard back from them. That was sad. My sister has like a 3.8, 3.9 in business at UVA, good business school. Never heard back from them. So it's tough. What I've been doing is just I'm happy to have the shipyard in hand, but even though the idea of getting an offer the summer before your last year is so that you can go through your last year not having to worry about the job search, I'm still going to search for aerospace opportunities because even though the shipyard work is good, it's not quite aerospace. So that's what I'll be doing to diversify my interests, even though obviously that will lead to a very tough choice later on if I do get an offer from somewhere else. But yeah,
Well, I certainly know that, that at least for you, one, you at least have the opportunity that was already presented to you in the event that you can't, find something within aerospace. But also, I mean, it definitely will lead to to a decision that needs to be made. But at least you have something to at least grasp on, because I know that for a lot of up and graduating college students, that trying to find the initial first job, just anything, um, is very tough. So at the very least, you have something to work with, for the time being, and And have you done? I think that you have done at least some sort of internship, one or the other, for every year of college.
I have, yeah. That's one lucky thing I'm happy to say because the Space Grant Consortium, how we were first acquainted. The way it functions, it's a summer camp, but it is an academy just because we have deliverables. So for those summer academies, I did 1 to 3 weeks where we just went on campus, talked with NASA folks at a nearby NASA facility and networked. So because of that, that counted as an internship freshman year. So you're right, I have done an internship every year, and one year I did both the space grant and the shipyard, so I did 2 years. Yeah, that was really awesome.
Yeah, and if you remember on that year that you did both, which first of all, I know we had been like texting throughout that whole process and
Yep.
trying to find a time as to when we could speak. I truly know that you were all over the place. I mean, you were at one internship, then the other, then the other, then
Yep.
going back and forth, and where our podcast that year was like practically like at midnight
It was,
for
yeah, I
that one
remember
going into
that
one.
very well. The locations have pretty much always been different. I don't remember where the past one was, but yeah, it's like the first one was in a room in the dorm building. There was that one at midnight. I'm surprised I could coherently speak through that one. And then there's this one here. It's just me in my house, in my room. We're doing stuff. I'll have some stuff later on today, but yeah, that's another funny quirk of seeing what ways I've changed. Not just where I've been in college and life and stuff, but also just physically seeing how locations have changed. Yeah, it's pretty funny to think on that.
Absolutely, and I think what actually makes it even more interesting that year that was that we had spoken to about 1 in the morning is that was actually 2023 on July 27th.
Was it really?
Yes, it was.
Wow. Was that before or after midnight? But either way,
So
still that's.
I think it was the 27th going into the 28th.
Oh, okay. Huh. How about that? I did not know that. So I guess that worked even more perfectly between our schedules because again, like I said, I had I like something every weekend. Like I had to move my sister in, then I moved into my new apartment. Then my mom and dad's birthdays both happened to be on weekends, or at least we celebrated it. I had some cousins over. Well, two sets of cousins, one on one weekend that announced they were coming the day before they were actually coming, and then the other one because it was all six of them from Georgia. That's a big deal because to have everyone free, they're in like middle school through my age. That's pretty bonkers. And then actually coming here instead of us going there, it was incredible. So it's been very busy for both of us between my weekends and your work schedule, but I'm glad we can make it work. But it's just funny, it just happened to be on the 27th.
Yeah, I mean, definitely pure was a coincidence. I didn't even realize the date until truly we were clicking on. I was just going through to just write down the dates, and it's like, oh my gosh, wow! Like
Yeah, hey,
a
that's pretty
whole 2 years
funny.
since that one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Does it feel like that was 2 years ago? You doing both
No,
of those internships?
it's again, it's just wild. Time is both fast and not fast. It just depends. So it's kind of weird thinking how fast college has gone by and how fast high school and everything else has gone by. But now that you mention it, that feels like an eternity because it was just so different.
I mean, I can't. I can only imagine, and I mean, I think about even for, myself at that time. I was working on thesis prep all summer, and and writing what felt like a lot. I mean, it was a lot. And now it's like 2 years later. Like I've finished my master's program. I have a published thesis and working 5 jobs now, and it's certainly a bit all over the place. And we definitely, let's say before we speak, I'll give you some time to ask questions to me. But since I know that we both have a pretty busy day today, I did actually want to, let's say, progress forward right now and actually ask. So I guess the two-parter question of one, again, how was your time with the apartment as opposed to campus life, and then also how was it spending all your time with your family over these past several weeks?
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack. So for the apartment, it was pretty good overall because again, it was a friend of mine from high school just hooked me up since his roommate was leaving. So I liked it overall. I was lucky that there was a bus stop right next to the entrance to my complex. So it was a very easy commute to school. It's also close enough to the grocery store I usually walked. But it was very interesting being more independent. That's kind of what I was looking for in my apartment. I think I mentioned it in past podcasts where even though I liked being in the LLC dorm for Galapatia, it was still pretty. It was pretty easy just because I could go to a dining place, but it was good to be more independent. So I liked that a lot. It was a slightly better living space just because the dorm was very old, and it was good to be more independent. So I actually kind of liked that a lot. So it was good overall for the apartment, at least.
Well, that's certainly great to hear. And did it feel weird not like being in the same dorm that you were in for all of those years? Like even trying to remember, um, like, oh yeah, I don't live here anymore.
Surprisingly not, because a funny consequence of me being on the apartment is that I only really had to go to the academic side of campus. So the bus loops are all there. They redid them really recently, actually, within the last couple of years. So, just right onto the bus to get to campus. But because I was mainly there for just the academic buildings, I never really had a reason to go onto the residential side. So it hasn't quite hit me that I'm not there anymore. But obviously, I know it because I'm in a different apartment. So next time I do see Hogue, maybe I will think about that. But I just haven't seen Hogue since I got an apartment because of just on the academic side. So to be honest, I haven't really thought of it that way.
Wow. And I know, of course, you had mentioned that you just, that your sister moved into her apartment. You moved into, to yours just a few weeks ago. So is this a different one than you were in last year?
Yes, yeah. Because of how it worked, I want to change my apartment slightly. So my roommate and I, we both formally moved out, cleaned up the place. Then I moved to one. It's actually kind of right next to it, so it's slightly more pricey. But one cool thing I was looking for, additional location stuff, is a balcony. So it ended up being on the first floor because I was getting a roommate kind of last second. But it's definitely it's basically the same because it's also the same leasing company, but there are a couple quirks like that balcony. Even though it's on the first floor, what that translates to is just a slide door with a very small concrete area, but it's like a decently big field between the various apartment buildings. So I like that. There's a garbage disposal in the sink. That's pretty nice. An actual dishwasher. I was fine washing dishes by hand, but that's a nice quality of life thing. And just some other stuff that so far seems like a slightly better quality of life upgrade from the apartment I was currently in.
Are you excited to move on up and finally have that first floor balcony and the garbage disposal and dishwasher?
I'll have to see how to incorporate the garbage disposal in the dishwasher, but I am excited overall. I like it a lot.
Well, that's certainly great to hear. Do you have any big plans for your balcony?
I don't really know. One thing I was considering at first is bringing one of the that grab and go telescope setup I described earlier and just observing if I have time. It'll be tough, so I don't know if I'll actually bring it though, just because it's grab and go, I can just set it up in like 5 minutes. I don't know how much time I'd have that I shouldn't spend studying or sleeping looking at that. So I've considered that. Probably won't do it. Otherwise, I'll probably just grab like some I don't know, just some plastic chairs maybe, because I have some nice chairs too that I could like just fold out. But that's mainly just what I kind of thought of. Maybe just bringing some chairs out and just kind of relaxing outside. I don't know. So nothing too crazy.
Well, that makes sense. And how was it with spending, time with your family? Because I know between your cousins and your parents and your sister, have you all been able to have time to even be with the own members of your household, let alone like all these family members coming around? How's that been for you?
It's been tough, but we've been able to make it work because again, it's just my parents and I for now since Lauren's at her apartment and because she's doing an internship over in Charlottesville. So that's the reason why we not only moved her in, but she's actually in Charlottesville for pretty much the entire summer. So it's been just my folks and I. But family wise, it's been a lot of time to catch up. Like got to know our cousins a lot better just because it's been a while. Kind of. We went to their graduation. Two of their cousins graduated high school, so we went there in May. So it's technically not that long, but to have all of them there, that's pretty unheard of. So that was great catching up with them, doing all sorts of fun stuff like swimming, trading cards, going to Busch Gardens, all that. Because for them, they don't go to Busch since they're in Georgia. So that was awesome. But yeah, I had a lot of birthdays, so it was good just hanging around. Did a lot of just some long term chore stuff. Like one funny thing, Dad's had the snowblower because he's from Massachusetts. But here, when he first brought it, like a snowblower is unheard of. So they're like, "What is that thing?" They were looking at it like it was some alien technology. And in the past, he's used it, so it's kind of surreal seeing the the snowblower just chuck the snow over in an arc. But we had to let it go between. It was broken. It wasn't beyond saving, but wasn't quite worth the time and effort. And whether from global warming and or just the past forecasts here, we haven't really had enough snow to really use it. So yeah, so I've definitely got to know him a lot better. It's kind of funny being like that busy after a week of working, but it's definitely been a lot of time to catch up and get to know my family a lot better.
I'm so glad that that you're able to have that time. I know from our conversations, both online and offline, that was that you greatly value was that your time with your family. So I'm glad that you're able to have that time.
Yeah, it's super nice. I'm not quite sure. It's gonna be kind of weird going back to college and kind of not having that as much. Like just going from all this to the weekly FaceTime calls. That'll yeah, I'll have to get used to that again.
Wow, and so since you just mentioned those weekly FaceTime calls, so is that like your main point of contact when you're at college, or do you message from time to time? How does that work for you? Out of curiosity.
It's basically both just a weekly FaceTime on the weekend. Sometimes Lauren calls them during the week, but usually it's just a big weekly FaceTime to catch up, and then just kind of texting throughout the week as stuff comes up, whether it's like details like apartment payments or something, or just kind of stuff that happens. So it's a little bit of both to answer your question.
Well, that makes perfect sense. I'm so glad that you're working to be more independent, but also make time for for your family, for your extracurriculars, for your but not as many as before, and your various set of current and upcoming minors.
Exactly. It kind of feels like it's all coming together, so we'll just see what happens maybe next summer, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we will. But I will say for those tuning in who don't know, we actually had a chance back in January to actually like meet up for really like the first time in person.
Yeah, in a long while because it was like 3 years. Because
Yeah.
again, we met because virtually we did a you were my you were the intern in my group during COVID. That was how we first got acquainted, and then just kind of touched base. We technically did meet on the Wallops
Yes.
Launchpad as part of a different summer academy when I was an intern and you were at yeah, Virginia Spaceport Authority. But ever since then, yeah, it's just been all virtual. So we just tagged a bit of Donatos and just grabbed a bite. That was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I thought that was so fun, and yeah, like I said, it as nice as it of course was a few years ago to like I said to meet up in person for sort of the first time for a whole like 40 seconds or so. It was nice to finally officially like meet up and chat, and so I'm so glad we were finally able to make the time for that. 'Cause I know we've been discussing it on and off for years now.
Exactly. One obviously we're talking a lot about family connections, but you have to keep in touch with your friends too. It's kind of tough, and that could be a topic in itself, just because I have a lot of friends that I either keep touch with or need to keep in touch with. Like one of the reasons these weekends have been busy is because I also schedule stuff with my friends. Like one thing I scheduled with shortly after this call is meeting up with some friends, having them over because we met a lot in June, and then whether from other stuff, we just kind of dropped off the face of the earth online in the chat we've been in. So catching up today, but I'm excited for that because again, you have to really work to keep your friends as your life changes, especially in college, the early years. So that's another aspect of connection I'll mention now, based on this. Yeah, just not only keeping up with your family, but your friends as well.
Well, I'm certainly, let's say, excited to hear that. Well, one that you're able to keep up with your, let's say, that you're with your friends and going to do so just a short while after, I said after our podcast, and so I definitely hope that your time with your friends go well. And I know you're saying in our previous discussion that one of your favorite ways to spend time with friends is with video games. Is that still the case?
Absolutely, yeah. We've done a lot of different stuff. I mentioned trading cards with my cousins, for example. But one big thing that I've always been a fan of, just because I was a kid, was Pokemon. That's a very popular thing. I have a whole 6-inch binder with the cards I've collected over the years. And 6 inches is a lot bigger than you think. Just check it on a ruler, and then you're like, wait, because that entire 6-inch binder is volumetrically packed with like the 9 card sleeve holders. So I think mathematically I have over 3,000 cards, not including like other types of trainer cards and energies or whatever. So we do that a lot. We did a fun activity called Pack Wars. The go-to for now historically has been Mario Party because again, just have fun with friends. have some tough decisions. It's like we always rage, but not actually. So that's been fun. But one recent thing has been those card pack wars, just because a friend of mine, I technically got him involved in card games in kindergarten, and he's like card games ever since. But kind of come full circle. So yeah, Pokemon has been a big part of both technically my life and just hanging out with some friends. But yeah, video game wise, it's usually that, and it's always been Mario Party, pretty much.
Out of curiosity, on which console?
Usually it's the Switch, because I have a Wii U. My sister has a Switch, but I do not have a Switch. One funny thing with that friend group, a friend of mine, that same friend I got into card games, he has what's called the Switch OLED, so like the HD Switch basically. So what he's been doing, which is very nice, it's been pretty slow progress for now, but he's been trying to fix up his old Switch, and he said he might give it to me, which would be very nice if he did, because again, like a college student, I can't afford it. He just got out of college, but yeah, that'll be useful, and I think he'll probably buy the Switch too. That is now released. Like there's a newer Nintendo Switch, so I think between the Switch and the OLED, he's got it covered. So that's another fun thing. But yeah, it's usually on the Switch.
Well, that makes sense. And my brother has the Switch too, and I know he's been loving it.
Really, that's awesome. It's like I like it. Like there's a lot of complaints about the price of the games. The price of Switch 2 itself is fine, but I love that it's just like a upgraded regular Switch.
Yeah, it's definitely been fun being able to play some Mario Kart, and which is one of my favorite games. And so I don't know, it's been kind of fun, and I think it's a nice way to spend time with friends and family, and really get like a nice little adventure out of it, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah, Mario Kart's a classic too. Those all those party games are fun. But yeah, it's just about having fun with people. Like it's funny for me. My favorite series of games is Smash, but I don't usually play with friends. Not because they don't like it, but usually I want the flow. So it's just Mario Party is perfect because even if you did know how to optimize the gameplay, it's still luck at the end of the day. That's the perfect game. But yeah, Mario Kart's fun, although we don't usually play it. Whether the setup or just reminding people how to play. And Smash again, it's not hard, but I don't want to wipe the floor, so Mario Party's perfect.
Oh my gosh! For Super Smash Bros, what character do you oftentimes go to?
My main historically has been Ganon. I played in the version before this one called Smash 4. I got it for the 3DS. I played through it a lot. But yeah, I eventually shuffle around but settle on Ganondorf because you just have to be smart to play with him. He's not technically hard. He's also pretty bad though, competitively apparently. But yeah, I just like just focusing on the knowledge of the game rather than the technical inputs.
Makes sense, and I'm a Kirby person.
Uh, Somewhat of the same process because you can do combos, but it's tough because Kirby's slow. But yeah, it's a good character overall because a lot of potential, beginner friendly. So that's a good pick in my opinion.
But yeah, I mean, I've certainly was enjoyed being able to to catch up here everything that that you're doing, and I did actually want to allow time to flip this in the few minutes that we have. So, do you have any questions for me or anything that we haven't had a chance to speak about? The floor is all yours.
Yeah, one thing I was gonna ask about too, since I know we talked a lot about jobs for my part of life, but how's your job been? Because I know you mentioned in passing at one point that you had 5 jobs, and I knew you recently got a fifth job, but to flip the script, how do you feel having 5 jobs? How have you managed all that workload wise? I don't even know how you could manage that in a working day if there's like 10, 12 waking hours with 5 jobs. Could you talk about that and your job hunt experience?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So, for for context, I'm trying to remember 5 outside jobs, and then my podcast, also TV discussion channel, and I'm now the president of an alumni association.
Oh yeah, you are. Yeah, that's. And you said I had a lot of extracurriculars. Jeez.
But nevertheless, though, so for some context, actually, some of this has actually changed since the last time we spoke. So when we
Okay.
last spoke last year, it was May 14th, 2024. So I had just finished my time teaching with my university. So I graduated May 3rd, 2024, and I finished teaching May 7th. Contract was over, and it's like okay, now what? Um, like I love like for me, I love teaching, but and some people have inquired and be like, "Hey, would you be willing to continue?" I was like, "Yeah,
Oh,
provide me
cool.
some information," and I got no information. So I was like, "Okay, back to
It's
the
like the
drawing
ghosting we
board."
talked about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So I reached out a few times. I didn't really get that far. At one point, like I think it's like July 9th of last year. I got an email saying like, "We need a transcript from your university you attended." It's like I attended here, like, and you have my information.
Dang.
But okay, I did that. Didn't hear anything back, and then I told myself, and I think I mentioned it within our previous discussion. I said, "You know what? I'm going to just enjoy my summer." And I don't want to think about this whole job hunt thing until after my birthday, which is, August 5th. And so
Right.
I did that. I enjoyed my day. Day after that, I returned back to my main job in video production. I came back home from a production, and I truly opened up my email, and I've gotten an email saying, welcome to the university. Here's your contract. It's like, what? Like, where did I
Yeah.
apply? um, but nevertheless, I was brought back, like I said, to teach. No guarantee of classes, but I was so excited, and the contract was actually signed on my birthday.
Wow.
Um,
That's all. Yeah. Talk about a good birthday gift.
yeah. So, and then it came the day afterwards. So I was just in shock. Like, true. Like I saw I had a notification, but like I didn't look into it, and so because I was about to go back home after work, and I'm like, who'd be emailing me anyway? So I truly just sat down. I was like, okay, what's this? Oh my gosh! Like what?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was shocking. And so again, I didn't think anything of it. And then I was so excited. I know my brother was going around telling people, it's like, oh, well, yeah, my brother's a professor. He gets to teach. And I'm like, I don't have any
Wow.
classes. Like,
You
it's like,
don't
don't
have
get too
anything to
excited.
teach yet, but yeah, I guess you are a professor.
Yeah.
So
But end of August, we dropped my brother off at his university. And the day afterwards, I was teaching a volunteer class. And so this was basically a class for freshmen, like an honorary first class. You basically get to show them the ropes a little bit for like 45 minutes, if even.
I think I
Like
see what you're saying.
like a one and done class. But when I went there, I ran to one of my old professors, and she's like, "Hey, yeah, there's a public speaking class that begins on Monday,"
Ah, jeez.
and it didn't actually hit me that she was saying that in the sense that she wants me to teach it, and I'm thinking it's like today's Thursday. She wants me to teach a class that begins on Monday,
Yep.
um,
You know what
and
you're
I
doing that weekend.
yeah, and it's like, and I get my per se training, so to speak, on Friday. I had a podcast scheduled in the morning, and it's just like, okay, I could do afternoon. It's like, okay, yeah, just let me know by the end of today. But that was the best experience ever, being able to teach a class in the fall, and it was in person class. I hadn't been an in person college student since before the pandemic, so
Yeah.
to go back around and teach in person was amazing. But I will fully admit that um, going into the first day of classes and that are learning management software Canvas, I still didn't have access to it or the names of the students on the first day
Uh-uh.
was terrifying in a sense, because it's like the students, they don't have record of my name, I don't have record of their name, but I'm supposed to teach these people and be their
Exactly, yeah.
professor for an hour 15 minutes. So
Wow.
yeah, I remember someone coming up and asking, it's like, are you really the professor? It's like, yes.
Yeah, because on paper, it seems like, yeah, you can't quite prove it yet. But it's
Yeah.
like, I am, I promise.
Oh, well, not only that, but for them, up until the time the class actually ended, under where it says, like, who your instructor is, it actually showed blank for them. Like, my name wasn't even in the
Oh,
system.
yeah. Yeah. We have a similar thing because, like, for example, for the math department, because there's so many teachers, it doesn't tell you who the professor is till later. Like, to finish my math minor, for example, I'm taking calc of several variables, but I don't know who my teacher is yet. So that's not uncommon, but to happen up till the day of class, that must be awkward for all the proactive folks. Like, why isn't this refreshing? Like, who is the teacher? Does this class exist? Like, what's going on? That's awkward.
Yeah, especially being a very young instructor, it's just like I have to make sure it's like okay, like that I have all of my stuff in order, that I can distinguish myself from the students, and but nevertheless, I so enjoyed it. It was so fun, and I didn't have a class in the spring, but I do return back this fall, and so I'm so excited. Same classroom too,
Oh, awesome! Yeah,
but
not for that
yeah,
consistency, but yeah,
yeah, I'm so excited. But in terms of my most recent job, my now fifth job, it sort of came from in my mind. I feel like it came out of nowhere. So I am sort of tasked with upgrading the media and streaming capabilities of my home church, um, and yeah, I've been doing that officially since May, but I've been in talks sort of about it since January.
cool. So yeah, we're talking about like for my photography stuff, looking at media stuff and eventually upgrading stuff. But yeah, I guess it seems like you're doing that too. Because yeah, it seems like every church, since I'm a Catholic, I go to church every week. A lot of churches have done live streaming capabilities, especially since COVID.
But yeah, and so I'm sort of the first person in my very specific role of being a team lead, and so I get to be sort of put on a producer hat as opposed to just directing and audio, and so it's been really an interesting challenge where I fully am able to put together all of the sort of task that I've done over the years and just put them all together in one role. So it's been a interesting challenge, but I've enjoyed the process.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But yeah. But were there any other questions before we go ahead and let's begin wrapping up? Let's since I do know that we both have very busy schedules, but I'm just so glad we have a chance to speak now.
I was about to say I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, but again, it's just tough. Like those friends I mentioned, they're coming over relatively soon, so yeah, I think that's everything I have for today.
Well, perfect. And I will say something that we had discussed last year, before we begin wrapping up, is that you said that before we speak this time in 2025, that you had at least wanted to make, was it one video, was it of your day, just sort of recapping like sort of a day in your life time capsule. Did you ever manage to make to get to do that in 2024 heading
I
into now?
haven't. No, it was so busy. I should have, but yeah, it's just tough because again, just classes going back and forth. I don't know if people would even react if I was just filming myself. But yeah, I should have. I remember it, but that's one thing that again, downside of me being so busy. There's so many small tasks I'd like to do I don't get around to, like my Instagram, which uh, yeah, I guess you can find a link at the end of this. I have I said like one of my first astrophotography posts was like 2022 resolution. I'll post all my stuff. I have all the pictures I want to post, but I'd like to find time to do a thorough caption because I like to thoroughly caption everything and talk about the experience. But I have a massive backlog that I will do. It's just I haven't made time because I'm so busy. So no, I have not, and I have some other stuff planned. But yeah, I'll do that at some point. Just yeah, haven't had time for it this year.
Yeah, well, maybe at the end of 2025, that maybe that would be like one of our personal goals we set for ourselves. Like before 2025 ends, both of us will at least have made that video. And I know for myself, I've been on and off of social media throughout my life. I don't particularly care for it, but it's like one of these days I want to have enough time to truly go through my pages properly. And so one of one of the tasks that you had assigned me that I also haven't done, so another resolution I need to work on, is that you had requested me to make a video actually outlining my podcasting process.
Right.
And so for me, I think I actually want to do that, show that process actually with this video.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Love to be the the guinea pig template for that. Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely I'll be working on that. But as we wrap things, like I said, up, so Zach, Zachary, what does it mean for you to, let's say, be a guest here on the podcast? Let's say year after year. What do you want to know about yourself if you look back at this video?
What do I want to know about myself? The reason I like being back on these podcasts and what the experience is about is just tracking your journey, both personally and professionally. So that's why I like to be on this podcast and just document that, and just to see how other people seeing your progress can be a catalyst for them to look at their own progress like this, holistically, take some time to see where you've been in the past and where you are now, and just inspire people to make a change. That's why I like being on this podcast.
I love that. And where is the best place for people to find you online, whether it's like Instagram, LinkedIn, or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, I'm not on social media too much either, but yeah, my Instagram, which hopefully if you just search Zachary Valancourt will pop up quickly. And yeah, LinkedIn, that's a good place to reach out to me, both professionally or just if you want to talk more individually. So yeah, my LinkedIn and Instagram are great places to reach out to me.
Well, that is great to hear. And I know that our conversation 2 years ago was Learn Yourself First. Our one last year's Keep On Keeping On. What would you title this episode?
That's a great question. Um, Maybe it would be. I'm trying to think. I mentioned earlier how I've kind of refined what I'd like to be in terms of like focusing on what extracurriculars I like the most, getting more focused on studies now that I have an idea of what I'm doing. So maybe the title would be something along the lines of refining or refocusing yourself, because that's kind of what these podcasts have always been about, but is especially true now that I've been on long enough to really have that backwards perspective. So that's what I think I would name it. Yeah, just like refining yourself, refocusing, reevaluating. Some word with the with the prefix re will probably do, but yeah, just kind of realizing that you are um, not only do you have to discover who you are, but you have to keep in touch and make sure you know who you are, because it's who you are is not always going to be the same.
I love that. And I'm going to allow you to go ahead and close us out, our fifth discussion overall. And let's say the 125th of this episode, with whether it be an inspirational thought, life lesson, or whatever the case may be. The floor is all yours, Zachary.
Ooh, love this. I love this time every time. I think the inspirational thought would be this time would be to um, don't be worried about who you are right now. Just see if you were a better person than you were in the past, because no one's a finished product. There's not like an empirical definition of perfection. So yeah, there's a better saying for this I'm forgetting, but yeah, just don't worry about being perfect, or don't feel too intimidated when you see all sorts of people being super successful, because you'll get there one day and you might look like that to someone today. So don't be too worried about where you are now. Just see how you've improved from the past and make sure you have an understanding of where you're going. I guess that's the thought or general idea that I'll leave today.
I love that. Lisa, thank you so much for all of your support and for keep on visiting the podcast. And it's always great to have you as a friend and friend of the podcast.
Absolutely. And again, thank you for keep having me on.
Of course. And for those tuning in, thank you so much as always for tuning into the Tansson Talks show. I greatly appreciate it. And let's continue every week as we continue on our mission to bring people together. I'll see you then, friends. Take care.